Good afternoon. I'd like to introduce you to my audience, my parents, Joe and Laura, who cannot be on screen for personal reasons. Here's the dilemma. You're at a restaurant, you specifically ask for a Coke when you get handed a Pepsi or vice versa. You tell the waiter what you requested and he gives you the "what's the difference" shrug. Perhaps it's time we set it straight. With such a huge market and enormous revenue potential, the Coke versus Pepsi competition is fierce. According to Kim Bashan, the rivalry between Coca-Cola and the Pepsi industry is legendary. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the differences between Coke and Pepsi. Although the feud really heated up with the Pepsi Challenge in 1975, which promoted Coca-Cola's horrific New Coke debacle, the brands have been fighting each other for more than a century now. And not just about product development. Things occasionally got personal, which sometimes resonates in their marketing. Earlier last year, Pepsi went after Coke's famed mascots, the polar bears, and even Santa. The feud was moved into outer space and raged over social media. So how did it become this way? Let's begin with the history of Pepsi. According to the Reynolds and Pepsi Company, born in the Carolinas in 1898, Pepsi Cola had a long and rich history. The drink is the invention of Caleb Branham, a pharmacist and drugstore owner in New Bern, North Carolina. The summer of 1898, as usual, was hot and humid in New Bern, North Carolina, so the young pharmacist named Caleb began experimenting with combinations of spices, juices, and syrups, trying to create a refreshing new drink to serve to his customers. He succeeded beyond all expectations because he invented the beverage known around the world now as Pepsi Cola. Caleb Branham knew that he had to keep people returning to his pharmacy. He would have to turn it into a gathering place. He did so by concocting his own special beverage, the soft drink. His creation, a unique mixture of cola nut extract, vanilla, and rare oils, became so popular his customers named it Brad's Drink. Caleb decided to rename it Pepsi Cola, and advertising his new soft drink, people responded and sales of Pepsi Cola started to grow, convincing him that he should form a company to market this brand new beverage. In 1902, he launched the Pepsi Cola Company in the back room of his pharmacy and applied to the U.S. Patent Office for a trademark. At first, he mixed the syrup himself and sold it exclusively through soda fountains. But soon Caleb recognized a greater opportunity existed to bottle the Pepsi so that people could drink it anywhere they wanted. The business began to grow, and on June 16, 1903, Pepsi Cola was originally registered with the United States Patent Office. That year, Caleb sold 7,968 gallons of syrup, using the theme line "Exhilarating, Invigorating, Aids Digestion." He also began awarding franchises to bottle Pepsi to independent investors, whose number grew from just 2 in 1905, in the cities of Charlotte and Durham, North Carolina, to the 15 the following year and 40 by 1907. By the end of 1910, they were the Pepsi Cola franchises in 24 states. Pepsi Cola's first bottling line resulted in some less than sophisticated engineering in the back room of Caleb's pharmacy. Building a storage franchise was one of Caleb's greatest achievements. Local Pepsi Cola bottlers, entrepreneurial in spirit and dedicated to the product's success, provided a sturdy and a very hardcore foundation for them. They were the cornerstone of Pepsi Cola enterprise. By 1907, the new company was selling more than 100,000 gallons of syrup per year. Growth had been phenomenal, and in 1909, Caleb erected a headquarters so spectacular that the town of New Bern pictured it on a postcard. Famous racing car driver Barney Oldfield endorsed Pepsi in newspaper ads and as a bulky drink, refreshing, invigorating, and a fine bracer before a race. The previous year, Pepsi had been one of its first companies in the United States to switch from horse-drawn transportation to motor vehicles, and Caleb's business expertise captured widespread attention. He was even mentioned as a possible candidate for governor. A 1913 editorial in the Greensboro Patriot praised him for his keen and energetic business sense. Pepsi Cola enjoyed 17 unbroken years of success. Caleb now promoted Pepsi sales with the slogan, "Drink Pepsi Cola, it will satisfy you." Then came World War I, and the cost of doing business increased drastically. Sugar prices seesawed between record highs and disastrous lows. And so did the price of producing the Pepsi Cola. Caleb was forced into a series of business gambles just to survive until finally, after 3 exhausting years, his luck ran out, and he was bankrupted. By 1921, only 2 plants remained open, and it wasn't until a successful candy manufacturer, Charles Guth, appeared on the scene that the future of Pepsi Cola was assured. Guth was the president of Loth Incorporated, a large chain of candy stores and soda fountains along the eastern seaboard. He saw Pepsi Cola as an opportunity to discontinue unsatisfactory business relationship with the Coca-Cola Company and at the same time add in an attractive drawing card to Loft soda fountains. He was right. After 5 owners and 15 unprofitable years, Pepsi-Cola was once again a thriving national brand. One oddity of the time, for a number of years, all of Pepsi-Cola's sales were actually administered from a Baltimore building apparently owned by Coca-Cola, and named for its president. Within 2 years, Pepsi would earn $1 million for its new owner, and the resurgence came from new confidence, a rarity in those days, because the nation was in the early stages of a severe economic decline, much like we're in today, that came to be known as the Great Depression. Now for some history on Coca-Cola. According to Bellis, in May 1886, Coca-Cola was invented by Dr. John Pemberton, a pharmacist in Atlanta, Georgia. He concocted the Coca-Cola formula in 3 Legend brass kettle in his backyard. The name was a suggestion given by John Pemberton's bookkeeper, Frank Robinson. Being a bookkeeper, Frank Robinson also had excellent penmanship. It was he who first scripted Coca-Cola into the flowing letters which have become the famous logo of today. The soft drink was first sold to the public at the Fountain Soda in Jacob's Pharmacy in Atlanta on May 8, 1886, much like Pepsi's. About 9 servings of the soft drink were sold each day. Sales for the first year added up to a total of about $50. The funny thing was that it cost John Pemberton over $70 in expenses, so the first year of sales were ultimately a $20 loss. Until 1905, the soft drink marketed as a tonic contained extracts of cocaine as well as the caffeine-rich cola nut, much like Pepsi. In 1887, another Atlanta pharmacist and businessman, Asa Candler, bought the company from Coca-Cola and inventor John Pemberton for $2,300. By the late 1890s, Coca-Cola was one of America's most popular fountain drinks, largely due to Candler's aggressive marketing of the product. With Candler now at the helm, the Coca-Cola Company increased syrup sales by 4,000% between 1890 and 1900. Advertising was also an important factor in John Pemberton and Asa Candler's success by the turn of the century. The drink was sold across the United States and Canada. Around the same time, the company began selling syrup to independent bottling companies licensed to sell the drink. Even today, the U.S. soft drink industry is organized by the principle. Until the 1960s, both small-town and big city dwellers enjoyed carbonating beverages on a local soda fountain or ice cream saloon. Often housed in the drugstore, the soda fountain counter served as a meeting place for everyone of all ages. Often combined with lunch counters, the soda counters declined in popularity as the commercial ice cream, bottled soft drinks, and fast food restaurants became popular. On April 23, 1985, the trade secret of the new Coke formula was released. Today, products of the Coca-Cola Company are consumed at a rate of more than 1 billion drinks per day. In 1969, the Coca-Cola Company and its advertising agency, McCann Erickson, ended their popular Things Get Better with Coke campaign, replacing it with a campaign that centered on the slogan, "It's the real thing." Beginning with the hit song, the new campaign featured what to be proved one of the most popular advertisements ever created. For over a century, Coke and Pepsi have been at each other's throats in a constant struggle for a bigger piece of the billion-dollar soda market. Along the way, the companies have picked up a slew of loyalists and fans, adamant in their Coca-Cola reign supreme. Now for some information on their marketing. According to CNN, with the North American soft drink market, both Coke and Pepsi are focusing now on other areas to grow and expand their businesses. Coke is targeting international growth, while Pepsi is growing its snack business, and both are going head-to-head in the rapidly expanding bottled water business. Their commercials are among the most innovative on television. Star power is often the most common denominator between them. But when it comes to soft drink wars, it is still very much a country divided between two familiar colors, the red and the blue. In the U.S., according to Bonnie Herzog, an industry analyst with Smith Barney, it's a closer race between Coke and Pepsi. When you look outside the U.S., Coke has the lead. Indeed, 75% of Coke's profits now come from the foreign markets it dominates, while back home the slugfest has gone on for decades. Manufacturers have sold more than $7.7 billion worth of bottled water in this last year, up 12.3% from 2001. According to the Beverage Marketing Corporation, Pepsi's Aquafina brand is beating Coke's Dasani in the National Bottled Water Company. "I think it makes us all better," said Pepsi's Vice President of Marketing, Katie Lacey. "It's one thing about working in a very competitive category. You are absolutely on your toes. We don't let it dictate how we act or think every day. We're focused on how we're going to grow our brands, and that is our main concern." With public opinion split, there's another problem for both Coke and Pepsi. Volumes of carbonated soft drinks in North America are growing at less than 1% a year. Meanwhile, sports drinks like Gatorade are growing 15%. Bottled water expanding 26% annually. It's a saturated soft drink market where water is growing and money are, according to Herzog, low. For now, Pepsi's Aquafina beats Coke's Dasani in the water wars. It's just the latest battle between hundreds of Coke and Pepsi brands. Diet Coke versus Diet Pepsi, Sprite versus Mountain Dew, Nestea versus Lipton, Tropicana versus Minute Maid, the list goes on. But for Pepsi, it's not all about drinks. 60% of its profits come from the snack business. From Frito-Lays to Cracker Jacks and Tostitos, Pepsi has a virtual monopoly with no competition from Coke. They're going after the younger consumer who purchases a single-serve product at a convenience store like 7-Eleven or Wawa, said Ton Stender, who follows the company at Crowell Weedon and Company, and that's where really the profits are. Coke, meanwhile, just scored a big coup by winning the soft drink business at Subway, a fast food chain now bigger than McDonald's that it had previously served only by Pepsi. In the home office, analysts like both management teams, both companies expense stock options, and both project revenue growth in the mid to high single digits. The quick trick: if you drink them side by side, Pepsi is the sweeter of the two, which is why people tend to prefer Pepsi in the Pepsi Challenge. And the explanation? Although the fantastic ad campaigns run by both companies would have you think otherwise, the soft drink similarities are pretty striking. For starters, Pepsi and Coke were both the brainchildren of Southern pharmacists, invented by Pemberton and by Chandler later on. There was originally a concentration of cocaine in their soda, but it was reduced a tiny amount, 1/400th of a grain per ounce, by 1902 and removed altogether by 1930. The Coca-Cola Company changed hands a few times, and after a prohibition, Coca-Cola was sold to the Woodruff family for $25 million. Pepsi, on the other hand, was born a few years after Coke, and began experimenting with various mixtures. They became known as the creative brand of Brad's drink, as I told you earlier in the speech. It became an overnight success, and began selling exhilarating, invigorating, digestion-aiding syrup by the gallon. In the 1940s, Pepsi became the drink to be known as adopted a red, white, and blue logo to support America's war effort, or to profit from a hollow, contrived gesture of patriotism if you're a Coke drinker. While both drinks contain vanilla, rare oils, carbonated water, cola nut extracts, and the widely beloved high-fructose corn syrup that we all come to love, Coca-Cola maintains a secret ingredient, the mysterious 7X. The formula for the soft drink, including 7X, is kept in a bank vault in Atlanta, and employees who know the secret formula must sign a non-disclosure release to be able to before they can even enter the building, and before they even get to take a peek at their well-known recipe. In fact, the 7X is kept so secret that the Coke was for a time forced to abandon the market in India after law was passed that required all trade secret information to be disclosed to the government. The law was changed in 1991, and ever since, Coke and Pepsi have been vying for the lion's share of the Indian market. In conclusion, now that you know about the history of both soft drinks, their marketing strategy, and why some people choose one or the other, it's up to you. Which one will you decide next time someone asks you? Coke or Pepsi? Thank you for being here today, as well as my parents, Laura and Joe.